questions in the Q&A section. So with that, let's jump on in. All right, so I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a background on Parent Plus just real quick. I want to make sure everybody is on the same like playing field in this conversation today, because I know we probably have some new folks here that are looking to figure out what to do with their Parent Plus loan situation. And I know there's probably some folks in here that are maybe in the midst of this double consolidation process, or maybe people who have already had consultations with us. So I'm going to try to level the playing field a little bit, catch people up to speed, and then we'll jump into the nitty gritty. So who the heck are we? Who is Student Loan Planner? So I would say we are the experts in student loan repayment. We've consulted on a lot of student loan debt at this point, $4 billion in student loan debt. Unfortunately, there are trillions of student loan dollars outstanding, so we've still got a long way to go. But we've consulted on a lot. We've seen a lot of different situations. You do not have to be embarrassed or ashamed here. We have seen it all, and we are here to help. And we're a team of CFAs, CSLPs, CPAs, CFPs. All that means is we've got some financial planning background, and we've got the niche specialty in student loans specifically. That's what this CSLP stands for, Certified Student Loan Professional. So we are here and very excited to chat about student loans, which is, again, a weird thing to say, but there's got to be people out there to do it, right? Hopefully you're excited about your jobs or what you do. Now let's jump into what are Parent Plus loans. Most of you guys already have them, or you're about to be borrowing them, so you might have an idea. Basically, a Parent Plus loan is a federal student loan that you can borrow for your child. Someone going to college, so maybe not child, but someone going to college. You can borrow up to the cost of attendance for each child. This does make going to an undergraduate program possible if you don't have the funds to pay cash. So it does create access to undergrad education for, I would say all or most all people, if we have a Parent Plus or a parent willing to sign for one of these types of loans. Now, these types of loans have access to forgiveness, just like other federal student loans. So through public service loan forgiveness, or through the income-driven forgiveness timeline, which is a 20 or 25-year timeline. So forgiveness does exist. It is something that's possible with these types of loans as well. But usually the only eligible income-driven plan is called ICR, or income contingent repayment, which is 20% of your discretionary income. That is not cheap. That doesn't create a lot of affordability, even for people who are with lower income. 20% of your income is really high. So it is income driven, but it's pretty high compared to some of those other options that your kids would have access to with their own loans. So they are among the fastest growing types of student loans out there, because undergrad has gotten more and more expensive. Undergraduate educations are, the cost of attendance is going up. And if we can't, the student has the ability to borrow under their own name, but it's limited. You can really only borrow up to like $5,500 for your first year, $6,500 for the second year, $7,500 for the next couple of years as an undergraduate student. So not a lot, depending on what the cost of attendance is at your school or your kid's school. So Parent Plus loans are what you can roll over into to subsidize what's left, to pay for what is left on that bill. So they're the fastest growing student loan type right now. We're going to see more and more of these loans in the future. So that's a little bit about Parent Plus loans, just to catch you up to speed too. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about how to open access to cheaper income-driven plans. That is the whole purpose, the sole purpose of this double consolidation loophole that we're going to be talking about here coming up. So this is one income-driven plan that we naturally have access to, but we're going to talk about how to break open access to these cheaper income-driven plans that are either 10, well, could be 5, 10, or 15% of your discretionary income. So that's where we're going with this. Now, general rule of thumb. So let's take a step back and figure out who should be paying attention to this anyways. You know, who should be even entertaining this double consolidation loophole? Should you even go through the effort of doing this? So, general rule of thumb. So let's say you already have Parent Plus loans, or you've got a balance of some kind with Parent Plus loans already. And let's say that that balance is less than what your income is, or what it will be when you go into retirement. You're a parent, you're probably closer to retirement. So also think about what your income is going to be in your retirement years. So if your balance is less than what that income is or what it's going to be, this double consolidation loophole may not be the best thing to entertain, in the sense of, you know, there may not be forgiveness on the other side of it, is what I'm trying to say. Your income is high enough to where you would be able to pay the loans off. The income-driven payment may not be low enough to get you to any kind of forgiveness threshold. Now, payment affordability is another consideration. So if the income-driven payment is cheaper than some of the amortized options that you'll have access to, like the fixed repayment options, then that might be a different story. But generally, if your balance is less than your income or what your income will be, this may not be something that you need to entertain. So, on the flip side, if your balance is a lot greater than your annual income, let's say, you know, your income right now is about 100,000, you've got about 200,000 of Parent Plus loans, and you're going into retirement, your income in retirement isn't going to be that much greater. Maybe it might even be less. That is a situation where your balance is a lot greater than your income and your future income. And that's where this double consolidation loophole might make a lot of sense. That's where we should be more passive with our loan situation, to go and make our payment affordable, one, but also to have an end in sight, which is loan forgiveness later. And that could be through an income-driven plan after 20 or 25 years. So this is what you need to think about first. Put yourself into one of these buckets. If you're someone who is probably going to end up just paying these loans off, this double consolidation loophole may not be worth the effort. If you're someone whose balance is a lot greater than your income, and this is going to help save your budget in your retirement years, then this is absolutely something you should consider. So this is a way to kind of decide, all right, how should I even be treating my loans in the beginning, right? So what is the double consolidation? So I'm sure you've probably heard about it, read about it, maybe watched a YouTube video or two about it. So like we talked about, Parent Plus loans cannot access the cheapest, the best income-driven plans. It was written into the legislation that they don't have access. Even if you consolidate, they only have access to that one income-driven plan, ICR, income contingent repayment. Consolidate once. So we'll come back to that here in a second. Let's see. So the only way, kind of like we were talking about, the only way we can get access to the new SAVE plan. So you guys have probably heard about this SAVE plan, SAVE, that came out last July. This double consolidation is the only way we can get those Parent Plus loans eligible for SAVE, which is pretty important. And then that SAVE plan has forgiveness after 25 years of repayment, which I know that sounds like a long time, but if we're comparing paying the balance off with a really high amortized payment that might take you 20 years anyways, it could be good to compare to the 25-year forgiveness timeline. So there's a lot of things that go into this that make your plan very specific to you. So I'm hoping from what we're talking about today and what I've gone over so far can help give you just some ideas or direction on what you should be considering, what questions to ask, and what you should start to pursue. But keep in mind, your plan is going to be very specific to you. All right, so this next line right here, so it took me a second. I forgot I wrote this, but so basically in the legislation, what it says is a parent or a consolidation. So a consolidation is when you combine loans or you convert a Parent Plus loan into what's called a direct consolidation loan. It's a whole new loan, but it's still federal. It's still in the federal system. If we do that, we only have access to the amortized plans, like a 20-year or 30-year payoff, or we have access to income contingent repayment, right? Because we have a consolidation that consolidated a Parent PLUS loan or Parent PLUS loans. There's no wording or language that says what happens if you consolidate other consolidation loans. So that's where this double consolidation starts to come into play. And I'm going to go through some visuals here in a little bit. But conceptually, what this means is if you have Parent PLUS loans that you split up and consolidate separately, let's just say you've got, for easy like visual purposes, let's say you have 4 Parent PLUS loans for each year of your kid's undergraduate education. You take 2 of those loans, the separate loans that you borrowed, and you consolidate them, with one company into its own direct consolidation loan. And then you take the other 2 and consolidate them separately at a totally different company, one of the other federal loan servicers, and it turns into a direct consolidation loan as well. So at that point, you have 2 direct consolidation loans, right? Both still have access to income contingent repayment, that higher income driven plan. The key here is when we consolidate the 2 consolidation loans together, the language has no rules about what happens if we consolidate 2 consolidations together. They're not consolidating Parent PLUS loans at that point. We just have consolidation loans right then. So if we consolidate consolidations, that's what gives us access to save, because the sequence of returns is important here. The last consolidation did not consolidate a Parent PLUS loan. So that's what opens access to save. Now, that's mechanically how it happens. Like hopefully you had some kind of visual, but I will go through a visual here in a little bit. What's the big deal about this right now? Like why am I having this sense of urgency to talk about this and do another webinar about this? Well, legislation is changing. All right. So they have found this loophole. They know about it. It exists. They didn't mean for it to exist, right? So the Parent PLUS loophole, this double consolidation loophole, is closing. So there's a cliff that we're kind of walking towards right now, where we're able to do this right now, but at some point we're not going to be able to do it anymore. So new legislation ends this double consolidation as of July 2025. So not this July, thankfully. We've got a year to figure this out and to get it done for the loans that we have. Any double consolidations finished after that date, after July, are not going to have the same like loophole benefits here. So that means we would not be able to access save after July of 2025, even if we did this double consolidation at that time or later. This is only going to work if we execute it between now and July. ICR will still be available. So this doesn't mean that if, let's say, you're not done borrowing loans, you're going to keep borrowing loans until like 2028, 2029. You've got more kids going to school, right? ICR is still going to be there. So we could still do the double consolidation with the loans that you have or that you will have by the end of this year. But the loans after 2025, they're going to have access to just ICR, which is also not the end of the world. It's still an income-driven plan, still has forgiveness associated with it. Depending on what your retirement income is, that payment could still be really low. So I don't want you to feel like all hope is lost if you still have loans to borrow later after July 2025. We still have access to an income-driven plan, thankfully. So we still need a plan. So don't give up right here, right? So that is what this whole cliff is about. This is why the sense of urgency. We've got a year to figure out if you should be doing the double consolidation, and if so, going ahead and executing it. And we're working up against a system that may not even, the servicers that you might be working with or the representatives that you're talking to at these companies may not even know what this loophole is, right? It's a loophole. It's not part of their like script that they read from. So you have to know more than the servicer in this case. The servicer is who manages your loans. So I wanted to show an example of the impact of the double consolidation on a payment. So this is an example post double consolidation. for someone who has a $100,000 salary. So let's say that's about how much you're making either working or in retirement. And we've got 200,000 of Parent Plus loans. So in this case, so remember, what should we be thinking about? Where is our balance in comparison to our income? If our balance is greater than our income, we should be considering a passive approach, which would be going towards loan forgiveness. So in this example, if we just got on income contingent repayment, that monthly payment would be $1,416. I reran that math this morning to make sure that was correct. That is correct. That's what it would have been. $1,416 a month if we just had access to ICR. That's this. With the double consolidation, I don't think this scale does it justice, but the payment would be $551 if we opened access to save. So that's almost a third of what that ICR payment would be, which is a big deal. That's a lot of money that you don't have to go towards your student loans if you're going into retirement, or income-wise, that's just a lot going out the door. That's like a rent payment. So that's the impact that we're talking about. It's a pretty big impact on the payment if we need a payment affordability, especially in those retirement years in the future. So the SAVE plan, let's talk a little bit about that. The SAVE plan just came out in July. It took over for the repay plan, if you're familiar. So replace that altogether. Payments are either 5% or 10% of your discretionary income. The difference there is 5% is based on that 5% calculation. It actually doesn't even calculate that way right now. But in July, when this turns on for the SAVE plan, undergraduate loans are supposed to be charged at 5%. Okay. Graduate school loans are supposed to be charged at 10%. Parent Plus loans don't fit either one of those molds. They're not undergraduate loans for your education, right? Because you didn't borrow them for yourself, you borrowed them for your kid. They're also not your graduate school loans. So we are at this point unsure of exactly what that payment calculation is going to be. We know for a fact that it can be 10% because we've been doing double consolidations this whole year since last July, and it's been calculating at 10% so far for folks who have successfully gone through this double consolidation. We don't know what's going to happen when they turn on that 5% lever. Do they drop it down to 5% because these technically went to undergraduate loans, or do they recognize them as plus loans still and keep the 10%? So that's something that we're all going to find out together, right? Coming up. So the 10% is still great compared to the 20%. So I would guard your heart against the 5%. Let's plan on the 10% until we know otherwise. Again, it's a loophole, so we have to kind of figure it out when they turn that button on. The payment calculation, you could zone out if you want to right here, but if you care about how they calculate the payment, they take 2.25 times the U.S. poverty line deduction for your family size. So that's, if you Google poverty line deduction for the US, it'll give you a list of the poverty line deductions for most of the states. There's two that are slightly different. I think it's Alaska and Hawaii, of course, right? You guys are outside of our inland area. But 2.25 times that poverty line, they take that amount and they subtract that from your adjusted gross income. They multiply that number, that's your discretionary income, times the 10%. That's how they calculate the payment. Divide that by 12, that gives you your monthly payment. You don't have to know how to calculate that. We've got free calculators on our website that can give you an estimate for what that's going to look like. In our consultations with folks, we give you a spreadsheet that shows you exactly what the payment should be based on your income trajectory over time. So don't feel like you have to do that by hand. There are free resources, and our consultation is a resource as well that can help you figure that out. Forgiveness, like we talked about for SAVE, could be as short as 10 years. So let me explain that real quick, because some folks might still be working in a public service capacity right now. You might have been, a teacher for your whole career, and you love it and you plan on staying for another 15 years. Maybe you're really young still and you want to keep working. Great. Public service loan forgiveness is a forgiveness program. It's not a repayment plan, but it's a program that you can pursue with these federal loans on the SAVE plan and have the loans forgiven after 10 years of payments, as long as you're full-time with an eligible employer. So if you don't know much about public service loan forgiveness, definitely check out, we've got a lot of blog content on our website, studentloanplanner.com. Check out PSLF, just type that in our search bar. We've got tons of articles about it. We've got free calculators that can help you estimate what the payments would look like there. It'd still be a SAVE payment, but we'd be done in 10 years. But we have to be full-time, which is 30 hours a week. So that could be a real option for some folks. But if you're thinking, hey, I'm going to retire next year, don't sweat it. There is still loan forgiveness. It's either going to be 20 years or 25 years. The 20-year threshold here, this would be if they consider the loans as undergraduate and they drop that payment down to 5%, because then it's a 20-year timeline to forgiveness if we just have undergraduate loans. If they're considered graduate school loans, or if you yourself have graduate school loans kind of baked into your whole loan portfolio, it's going to be a 25-year timeline. Okay. So one thing I'm going to skip to the bottom here, there's actually another plan called New IBR that you might want to entertain or might want to compare to SAVE. New IBR would be if you have not borrowed anything before 2014. So July 2014. If your kid just started going to school back in like 2018, 2019, you're eligible for this new IBR plan, which is a 20-year timeline to forgiveness instead of 25. The catch there is it's slightly more per month. So the payment is slightly more, but you'd be done 5 years earlier. So that might be something to entertain. You can compare. We can file taxes separately to keep the payment off of just your income. That's a strategy we definitely use to make sure that we're getting that payment as low as we can. And there's an interest subsidy. So that's an interest discount, meaning the SAVE plan, if let's pretend your payment is $500 a month on the income-driven plan SAVE, but your interest charge per month is $1,000 because your balance is large, the interest rate is not pretty. Your interest charge per month is $1,000, but you're only required to pay $500. What normally would happen is you'd pay the $500, it goes straight to interest, and the $500 that went unpaid gets added to the balance. So on SAVE, what happens is they waive that $500. They just waive it. So what happens is you still pay your required payment, it goes straight to interest, but anything that wasn't paid interest-wise is waived, so your balance does not grow. So that could be really helpful. Because for longer term forgiveness, we might have to worry about a tax implication for the forgiven debt, the forgiven balance in the future. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but that might be a reason to try to keep the balance as low as possible too. And then last thing I'll mention here, because it's on here in case you were curious, if we're on SAVE and we're on SAVE for 60 payments, which is 5 years, we can't switch to a different income-driven plan after that. It sounds kind of silly, but what they're trying to prevent is this new IBR is a 20-year timeline. So they're trying to prevent you from going on SAVE, getting that interest subsidy for 19 years, and then switching to the 20-year plan, you know, if it's going to be 25 on SAVE. So that's the catch there. So if we're on SAVE, if you're on it for 5 years, you got to stay on it. If you plan on switching to new IBR at any point, if you're eligible, then you can make the switch if it's before the 5 years. I'm going to pause. I'm going to just check. So yes, this will be recorded. I did see that question. We'll have this posted on our YouTube channel. If you don't follow us on YouTube or you're not subscribed to YouTube, you could type it in the search bar, Student Loan Planner YouTube. We'll pull up and we'll post the recording there later. And then Kathleen, have you been seeing a lot of similar questions or anything like that?
Yeah, a lot of questions about, folks have gone through the process. They tried to apply for SAVE, they're showing they're not eligible or they're only eligible for ICR. Getting a lot of questions about that. And so what I'm telling folks is to try applying using the paper version of the IDR application and mail it to your loan servicer instead.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that was definitely one of the things we were going to cover today because there are things going wrong with this process right now. So we'll jump to that. Anything else you think we should touch on? I'm actually going to switch my screen real fast and share a different screen. But any other common questions that you're seeing while I do that, Kathleen?
Yeah, questions about, they're still in the process of taking out additional loans. Can they still fit them into the double consolidation process?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. So I would say yes and no. So there, timing wise, we probably are only going to be able to include fall semester loans coming up. Maybe. I'm not going to guarantee anything, but maybe the spring semester loans. I would guard your heart and assume that we can't get spring semester though. So we're going to come back and talk about timeline. I'm going to pull up a visual that might be helpful and we'll get into kind of the process and troubleshooting from here. Let's see. All right, let me share my screen back. Okay. All right. Can you see this okay, Kathleen, on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is an example of a loan file. This will give us just a visual, I think, that can be helpful. So when you look at your loan file on studentaid.gov, so studentaid.gov is a great resource for getting this data. You're going to see multiple loans listed. Uh, I'm going to hide some of the things that may not be super helpful or like things that kind of just are fluff right now. But you'll see multiple loans. This person, I would assume, had two kids that went through school. They had, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year. So they have a loan for each year that they went to school. And so that means they've got 4 loans for each kid, so 8 loans total. In this example, what I would do to accomplish the double consolidation, let's say they're totally done, is I would just split these guys in half, send this chunk of loans. So these loans, they'll all have their own account numbers that you can see in the studentaid.gov portal. Split those, send them to one company. We'll talk about the different companies here in a second. And then I'd take the other 4, again, take the other half, send those to a different company. Now, we have to send them to different companies because if we sent them to the same company, we want to try to avoid errors and avoid things that the servicer could do to mess this up. So if we send them to different places, technically, or different processing centers, then they'll process them separately. If we sent the applications to the same exact place, they might say, hey, why did you split these up? Was this an accident? We'll just put them all together, which then defeats the purpose of the double consolidation, right? So split them up. That's how I would do that in this case. Like I mentioned before, everybody's plan is going to be a little different. So let's say you have 10 loans. That's going to make things a tad more complicated because then you're going to have to add pages to your consolidation application, which let's actually flip to that here in a second too. It also can change if you have your own loans. So let's say you have your own loans, but you also have Parent Plus loans. That's going to change the process a little bit too. So the point I'm getting at is your situation is very specific and unique to you to where the most optimal way to do this, it will depend. So I can't give a blanket answer for what everyone should do, but generally we should be splitting them up, sending them to different companies, and then combining the 2 consolidations later. Now, technicalities. We can only do one online consolidation application. I'll get that question a lot. Like, why can't I just do this online? It's because we can only do one online consolidation every 6 months. So we don't have that time anymore. We don't have 18 months to do this. So we have to do kind of the old school way of printing out a paper application, writing in the information, and mailing 2 applications out to those 2 different companies separately, but at the same time, if that makes sense. Because then a consolidation process typically takes the servicer I'd say 3 to, or sorry, one, sorry, well, I'm trying to think it in days and in months at the same time, and I'm confusing myself, but I'd say 30 to 90 days is the expectation. There is some movement going on in the student loan system right now, so it might be a little delayed, so closer to that 90-day mark. But worst case scenario, if it was 90 days or 3 months per consolidation, if we sent two consolidation applications out at the same time, then we've got two consolidations done within 3 months, and then we could turn around and consolidate again, which will take another, 3 months at worst. So that's 6 months right there, right? And that puts us at end of this year. So we're definitely in the clear for the double consolidation. But if there's any problems, like if they mess something up or we have to call them to say, hey, you didn't include the right loan, that's going to delay things. That's why I'm saying, we could definitely do the loans you have now. We could, I would say, get the loans that you're borrowing in fall done under this process. But everything would have to be perfect to get things done on time if we're doing the spring loans. And that just doesn't exist in the student loan system a lot of times. So if you're borrowing loans in the springtime for kids, just assume that those loans may not be included because timing wise, it may not work out. So 30 to 90 days is what I would tell folks per process. But if we're sending two applications out at the same time, it'd take, 6 months total for that whole process to go. So I hope that makes sense. I know this is, again, I'll say this a lot today, but this is a loophole. It is complicated. There is not a representative at the servicer that you can call to say, hey, can you help me execute this? There's just not. So either you have to know it, you have to work with us who knows how to do it. Those are basically your options. You've got to figure it out. You've got to do it on your own, or you have to have us help you and give you the best chances of getting it done. But we also have to keep in mind this is a loophole, right? So it's not guaranteed. We have seen many, many consolidations be successful. Many consolidations, double consolidations, I mean. I've been doing this since 2019 with Student Loan Planner, and we've been doing them successfully since then. I have seen errors happen where we had to really fix something before it was too late, or I don't think I've personally seen one done wrong. I have seen some do-it-yourself situations done wrong. And there were situations where we were able to fix it, and there were situations where we were not able to fix it. So, not to scare you, but this process is hard. So I don't want you to feel like it's easy either. I want to keep expectations real. So, but let's go take a look at what the paper consolidation application looks like. Any big questions, Kathleen, we should jump to before then?
There's a lot of good questions in here. I don't know how to choose. Um, we'll come back later to this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and drop the links to these different applications in the chat. Okay, so the one I just dropped in there that should go to everybody in the chat is the paper consolidation application that you would need to start the process, or you would need at some point during your process. So the expiration date is 2022, but it is still working. They don't have a newer form at this point, so you could still use this. So basically, this form, you'd put a bunch of basic info on the front page. The second page is the important pieces, second and third pages. So the second page is going to ask you what loans that you have right now do you want them to consolidate? And you have to list the loan code. You have to list the loan servicer, the loan account number, and the payoff amount. All this information you can find in the studentaid.gov portal within your portal for studentaid.gov. If you are doing a consultations process with us, this is something that you can hire us to help you with. So we will talk about that a little bit more towards the end, but if you are feeling overwhelmed and you really want to make sure that this is done right, we can offer that as a service. The third page is the place where we want to list the loans that you don't want to consolidate. Now, You may not have to complete this, but I highly, highly, highly suggest it because this makes it crystal clear which loans you want to consolidate with one company and what loans you don't want them to consolidate. And then when you send the other paper application to the second company, it's the reverse, right? And it's crystal clear which ones they're consolidating and not consolidating. So it helps them not cross things up, right? So this needs to be filled out. The account numbers need to be in there correctly. This is probably the most important part, the loan account number here. So that's the paper application. And I will say too, I have a YouTube video that does go through this step by step, a little slower or just a little more like detailed. So I'm skipping through some of this because I'm thinking a lot of folks on here have probably watched that already. But then accompanying that in the mailing packet, you're going to need to send a repayment plan request. So the repayment plan request is, I would say, required because when you send in a consolidation application, the servicer is going to ask, well, what repayment plan do you want to go on when you're consolidated? We're not eligible for save yet, so we have to apply for what we are eligible for with, as little paperwork as possible. So that's going to be one of the amortized plans. So think about this document that you're adding in with your consolidation paperwork as a placeholder. We're not actually going to make this payment, but it satisfies the requirement that the servicer has to need a a repayment plan option. So I'm going to drop this in the chat as well. This is the repayment plan request form. So you'd print both of these out, complete them with your basic information. I would just choose like the standard plan on this guy. Again, it doesn't totally matter because we're not paying this. I would choose this first option. I don't want to select a plan. I want to select this for all my loans. So that's probably what I would do there. Again, this is a placeholder, so it doesn't matter too much. Mail those out. Now, mailing addresses. I'm going to go ahead and pull those up. Thank you guys for being here and, putting effort into getting your plan organized and together. So I'm going to put up the addresses here as of what we know to be true today. So if you're watching this 6 months from now, double check these because they may have changed. That's also a problem right now. There's a lot of things changing really fast. If you do a consultation with us, our information is always up to date. And if something changed overnight and we met with you yesterday, we're going to be able to help you troubleshoot it to figure out what to do. So, but this is true as of right now. So Mohila is one company. I'll just highlight this. They are still accepting loan consolidations. Advantage is another right here. And you'll notice that they're going to the same place, but different PO box numbers. They're going to Aid Vantage, and they're going to the same place here. Ed Financial down below is the third one that we could use. I'll go ahead and highlight that as well. They're all going to the same place. You'll notice that in the highlights here. But they have different PO boxes. They have totally different processing centers. And we're still learning a little bit about what's going on now, but historically they've still kept things separate and they've kept the consolidations at the so Advantage processes the consolidation because these companies delegate it to them, but they send it off to the company that you initially, coded on this mailing packet. They send it to the right company and they are still separate. We have heard cases where Advantage has decided, hey, sure, we'll keep them separate, but we're going to put everything under Advantage, or we're going to put everything under Mohila, or everything under Ed Financial. So that at first panicked us. We were like, no, 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 we don't want that to happen. No, we don't want that to happen. But we have seen with multiple cases now that if that does happen, as long as they're still communicating that the loans are going to stay separate, that's okay. Because if the two direct consolidation loans are separate, then we're good. That means we're in the clear for this double consolidation because then all we have to do is consolidate the two consolidations together with a different company, later on. So hopefully that's helpful with the addresses and just with some of the like thought process on that first step, like what we need to be doing. So we're mailing out 2 consolidation applications, the same repayment plan request in each of those packets, and we're mailing them to different places. That way we're able to get them done separately. If it seems like they're going to house them at the same place, but they still send you communication that it seems like they're keeping them separate, then we're good to go. The second it seems like they're consolidating them all together, that is a problem. And that's when you need to address it or give them a call to fix it. So that's step 1 of the process. Step 2 is we just wait. This is, believe it or not, like a really hard part of the process because you're kind of waiting, you're wondering, like, is it getting done correctly? When am I going to get a mailer? When are they going to email me? So you just have to wait. They take their time. It takes every bit of that 30 to 90 days. So just wait. Make sure when you do get notice, and this might be a good tip, in the studentaid.gov portal, make sure your communication preferences are set up with how you want them to be set up. Do you want them to mail you a letter with confirmation about this, or do you want them to email you? And so you could change that setting in your studentaid.gov portal. All right, so once that's done, once both consolidations are done, they've settled, then we can use the online consolidation application. We haven't done it yet, so we have that as an option. We can go ahead and do that online application, which is on the studentaid.gov website. Here, actually, I'll pull that up. It's just like one option on the tabs that you'll see in studentaid.gov. So right here, so apply for direct consolidation. That's where you would go. And then we're consolidating the 2 consolidation loans together, and you have to choose a different company that the loans are not currently already at. So that's still true. We have to use a different company that those other 2 consolidation loans are not at. So in this example, if everything went perfect, we've got 1 consolidation at Mohila, 1 consolidation at 8 Vantage. The final consolidation needs to be done at Ed Financial to make sure everything stays separate. Now, a quirk in the application process, which might be some of your questions too, Kathleen, in the Q&A section, is can I do the online income-driven application at any part of this process? And the answer is no. The online application for income-driven repayment does not let you choose save for whatever reason. I think it's because when they redid the website recently, they had it just look back to see if there had ever been Parent Plus loans. And of course there have been in the past, right? But it's not picking up the sequence of consolidations. So it's not allowing us to choose the save plan because it thinks you're not eligible. So what you would need to do if you're doing this online consolidation application last as step 3, you still go ahead, choose like a different company like we talked about. But for the repayment plan, we need to go ahead and choose that placeholder, the standard repayment plan again. So that is kind of a quirk right here in the process. We used to be able to do the online income-driven application. We cannot now. Another change that's happened recently. So you'd have to choose the standard plan, wait for that to process. So I should probably put like step 4 here is wait again. So step 4 is wait. So there's a lot of waiting. Again, why timing matters here. So we wait until that consolidation is done. We need to make sure it's done, and on the student aid portal, it shows just 1 consolidation loan. And then once we see that, that's when we can apply for the income-driven plan. So we can apply for SAVE, new IBR, whichever plan we're going for. You will have to do a paper income-driven application. Unfortunately, it's not automatically PDF friendly, so you are going to have to just print this and fill it out manually. So fill out your basic information. You're going to be applying, entering an income-driven plan for the first time, and you want to specifically select the SAVE plan or IBR, whichever plan we're choosing. Do not, I know it says recommended right here, but do not choose this, because that's going to give them the option to choose what they want, and it's probably not going to be SAVE. So choose the SAVE plan or choose new IBR, whichever one you're going for, and then continue to go through the application here. So we have to do a paper application. I know that's annoying. It is archaic. It's slow, but that is part of the process right now. And once we complete that, or like fill it out, sign it, you're going to want to upload. I would recommend uploading this to that last servicer that you're with. So if you're with Ed Financial for the last servicer, there's a document upload section where you can upload income-driven applications. Take this, upload it to that portal along with your income documentation, which could be a tax return, it could be a pay stub, it could be a W-2. And if you're married and you filed taxes jointly, you're going to have to submit your spouse's income as well. So that's why filing separately might be something you consider as part of your plan. So that is a step-by-step, 5 steps technically, if I add back in the weight again. So it doesn't seem crazy on its face, but it's a lot of waiting, it's a lot of triple checking, it's a lot of just making sure that things are done right and being prompt with like responding to the servicers if there's an issue. So I will pause. Let's see. Let's go back to this slide real fast about just problems we're seeing, which I think we addressed some. But just real quickly, this is a loophole again. It's not guaranteed. You know, there's nothing to lose to try though. If this is going to be something that could be a game changer with your budget, there's nothing to lose to try. We have been super successful with this so far. So, you know, if you're following these steps to a T, or if you're working with us on a consultation, or a consultation series, we'll be able to help get you through this. Servicers are often uninformed. They are literally reading from a script. So when you call and say anything that's outside of the scope of what is in that script, they're not going to know how to help you. A lot of times you're going to have to ask for a manager or a supervisor. Some folks do know what the double consolidation is now, so it's not like taboo to mention it. You can mention it and it might help you get to the right person. But if you have to call, this is when it can get frustrating, is like dealing with the loan servicers. There's probably some questions in the Q&A section about getting initially denied for the SAVE plan or for new IBR, which we've seen happen too, where folks have completed the double consolidation correctly, they submitted an income-driven application, or they applied for income-driven over the phone, and they're not approved for the SAVE plan. They get put on the ICR plan. My suggestion there is to first reapply with the paper application. Go ahead and just submit a brand new paper application, specifically choosing what plan you wanted to go on. Make sure you're following the like flow of that application to a T. So it tells you what question to go to next as you answer those questions. And the questions that you skip, you don't have to answer all those questions. It tells you where to go next. And then make sure you upload your income documentation. If you filed taxes jointly, you're going to have to upload documentation for your spouse, unless you are legally separated or going through an active divorce. So servicers are not going to be super helpful. I'll throw that out there again. Nelnet. So Nelnet has been a student loan servicer for a really long time, and they were a big piece to this double consolidation process. I had used Nelnet a lot for many of my clients to go through this double consolidation process, but they are over weighted right now with borrowers. They have so many people at Nelnet. The Department of Ed is trying to level the playing field, or level out because they delegate this to those different servicers. They delegate servicing. So they're trying to level out how many people are at what servicers, and Nelnet is no longer accepting consolidation applications. So don't panic if you submitted one a while back. That should not get affected. The timing that we got from an insider was that they've stopped accepting consolidation applications that were post-dated after May 16th. So May 16th, a couple weeks ago, if you submitted an application within the past week or two, it's probably going to get denied. Don't worry, you could just take that same copy and send it to a different company. But Nelnet is no longer accepting consolidations as of right now, which is, what is today, June 4th, as far as we know. And like we talked about, the online IDR application doesn't work. So like Kathleen said earlier, like I mentioned just a moment ago, you're going to have to do a paper income-driven application and upload that to the loan servicer's portal, which you should only have to do on the last step after this double consolidation process is done. So, let's see. We'll get into how we can help here in a second. I want to maybe plow through some Q&A real fast. Let's see. We'll have this recording on YouTube, so just check out our YouTube channel later. We'll have it uploaded later on. Some of my loans are still in in-school status, even though I requested to be put in repayment status. So this is pretty common, especially if you have kids that are still in school. The loans will be in school status. Parent Plus loans, you can request to be out of in-school deferment, or they might just code you actually as being in deferment. And if you consolidate, it does kick them out of that status. That's only the case with Parent Plus loans. If you have your own loans, like your own unsubsidized loans, for example, you can't consolidate until you graduate or you withdraw from the program. But you should be able to go ahead and start this process by initiating it with the consolidation application, or you could ask them to remove the status. Let's see. So someone asked, I might have missed this, but what percentage actually pays off the loan and how much to interest? So it depends. It's an income-driven plan. So the payment is not based off of the principal or interest at all. It's just based off of your income. So whatever your income is, they have a calculation off of that. You might not have any money going to the principal. It might be going straight to interest, but that's okay if we're going towards loan forgiveness. So I've not been able to sign on to studentaid.gov. They're saying there's no record of my account. However, I have 8 Parent Plus loans with Nelnet. Can the account number that Nelnet lists be used on the second page of the application? Well, not having access to studentaid.gov is very problematic. So what I would suggest is giving FSA, Federal Student Aid, a call, the studentaid.gov like call center. Give them a call and make sure that they have the correct information on file for you. This goes for anybody. Make sure you have access to studentaid.gov. If you don't, you need to address it, because that means they either have your name spelled wrong or your social security number wrong. To do much of anything with your loans, you're going to have access to that website. So I would not use the Nelnet account number. That's not the same as what's in the studentaid.gov portal. Is it okay to send one to Aidvantage, your current servicer, and the other to Mohila? So the answer is yes, you can. So you could send them to the two entities, even though they have a similar PO box. They're processed by Aidvantage. They are getting processed separately. So that is fine. You can use your current servicer and a second servicer for the first process, and then you need to use a third servicer for the final consolidation. Let's see. Are any other like top of mind that were pretty?
Yeah, Megan, I don't know if we have time. Did you go over the additional loan listing form? That sometimes when you're doing this process and you have a lot of loans that are not gonna fit on one page, you're gonna need to use the additional listing form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a good point. So let me go pull that up actually. That's something that might be relevant. And this is what starts to make things a little complicated, unfortunately. But let me find it. Add loans document, and we'll post it in the chat. And then after this, I'll chat a little bit about just how we can help if you need some help, free resources. Okay, I found it. So I'm going to drop in the chat. This is only if you have more than 8 loans. So this is not relevant if you only have like 4 loans or 8 loans. If you've got 10 or 16 or 20, this is what you're going to need to use to list the rest of the loans, because there's only so many spaces on that paper consolidation application. So that's the add loans document. And then let me go ahead and actually drop the income driven application. And this stuff is not a secret. I'm definitely not gatekeeping this. It is on Google. I literally Google PDF of these forms and it will pop up. So the IDR application is what I just dropped in there now. So that should be helpful. Let's see. Okay. So how can you get some help with this? Well, there is a YouTube video where I walk through step by step exactly how to do this process, a little slower than today, because today I wanted to talk about the problems that we're seeing, talk about it from more of a bird's eye view for those that may not have heard about it before, and get into the nitty gritty of just some of the issues that could go wrong, some of the timing things that we talked about. But we do have a step-by-step instruction on YouTube. If you just Google again, Google's my best friend. If you Google student loan planner, double consolidation, a YouTube video should pop up. It's part of the article I wrote about this, and that can help you do this yourself. Now, we do definitely have experience helping folks with this, of course. So we have a consultation service where we meet with you one-on-one, right? You might have a lot of questions too about like, what plan should I even go on? Like, should I even entertain this new IBR plan or should I be doing save? What about that tax bomb you mentioned? Like, what is the situation? So our process, what that looks like is we have a 1 hour consultation where we help you navigate what your plan should be. So what repayment plan should you be on? Should we even be doing the double consolidation? What would forgiveness look like? What would those payments look like? What changes could affect the plan? And we really walk through that in a 1 hour consultation, give you a very good understanding of, hey, here's your loan situation and here's where we're going to go from here, how we're going to fix it and how we're going to make it doable. Now, we give you the step-by-step instructions, the written instructions on how to do the double consolidation on your own. That first consultation is not designed to do the paperwork for you, right? Because we have to make sure that that's even the plan in the first place. Parent Plus loans often are a 2 consultation process. So you have your first consultation to figure out the plan, really iron out the nitty-gritty details. And then the second consultation is a follow-up you set up. And that follow-up is where this is optional. You could do this on your own, but if you want help with the paperwork, you can meet with one of our Parent Plus specialists, which Kathleen is one of them, myself, Angie, who is here. She had to hop off. She had to go grab her son, and there's a couple others that are on that as well. We can help you walk through and do the paperwork with you on that consultation. So we pull the loan account numbers out from your file. We stack them up exactly how we should have them in the application. We paste them into the application for you. You're really just gotta, at that point, you really just have to print everything out, sign it, send it off. And then you have access to the planner, the consultant that you worked with to troubleshoot any issues that you might have or that come up, which has been super helpful to a lot of our clients as of late because things have changed so fast. Like, unfortunately, like we just found out Nelnet wasn't accepting consolidations less than 2 weeks ago because we started seeing our clients get rejection notices. And since they were clients, we were able to help them figure out what to do, like where to go from there. So that's a little bit about the consultation service. You can sign up at studentloanplanner.com. I'll drop the link. Let's see. I'll pull that up now. That way it's easy to click. But, we do charge for our service, of course, but we often save folks thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars by either making a mistake or just not going on the right plan, like not knowing what plan they should take. And oops, let's see. Well, I guess that'll take you to it. That's the longer link, sorry, but that'll take you to the right place. That's how you can book a consultation. But I think, working with us will help. Hopefully, our goal is to get the plan right, to make sure we're going the right direction, to help you really understand the plan. A lot of us on the team are educators. Like Kathleen, you're literally an educator now. You teach at a college currently, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So we love to help you just feel more comfortable with your loan situation and explain things in a way that's going to make sense to you and that you can hopefully regurgitate to a friend or, your financial advisor or whoever. But like most importantly, like it's something that you walk away feeling more comfortable with versus a ball of anxiety, because that's what we see a lot, like in our, like even in the blog comments of that double consolidation article and the YouTube page, I just see a lot of anxiety ridden comments about, well, what do I do? Like, here's my situation. Like, what should I be doing? Like, if that's you and you're not sure, like don't sleep on setting up a consultation or paying for the help. It does cost money, yes, but it could save you a ton of money by not doing it correctly or by missing the boat on the timeline is really the big problem too. Because, if we didn't have just a year left, like maybe you had the time to figure it out and, fix the problems as you go on your own, but we just don't have a lot of time left anymore. So if you want to get this done and right and feel like you're supported, then we can help you with that. So, let's see. I love student loans, so I'm going to answer a few more questions. Do you have any questions that you saw, Kathleen, that you wanted to answer?
There's just so many. It's
I
hard
know.
to.
Yeah. And as I say, what I meant by there's nothing to lose by doing this process is, there's nothing that's going to hurt you by doing this. As in, if you think this is the right play, you're going to get on save, or worst case scenario, you're back at where you were in the beginning. Like it doesn't take anything away from you, if that makes sense. It's only going to give you more options. That's what I meant by that comment. Okay. Yeah. And I'm seeing, are my questions showing up? There's no new responses. There's just a lot of questions. And it's hard to get really specific with like, with specific situations because it also may not apply to a lot of people. So I think we're trying to find things that apply to a lot of people. Do you have to legally be separated to to file married separately? So no, not at all. Filing taxes married but separate is a tax status. So if you are someone whose spouse, let's say, doesn't have student loans, you have the student loans, you want to keep the payments off of just your income, you don't have to be legally separated to file separately. You could just file married separately or married joint. There's two tax filing statuses when you're married. You could choose between them every year. Man, that would stink if we were encouraging divorce on this webinar. Let's see. How will the Nelnet denial of consolidations impact the June 30th consolidation deadline? If you sent it there and they reject it, will you get more time? So, no, I would say, well, so I would say no. Guard your heart and assume no for what she's or what they're referencing is the IDR account adjustment that expires June 30th, which matters if you have prior payment history and you want that credited towards your overall forgiveness timeline. That does expire as of right now, June 30th. So if you get a denial for Nelnet in the next couple weeks or so, you can turn around and resend it out to a new company. And as long as it's post dated by June 30th, you should be fine for the IDR account adjustment. This June 30th deadline could also be pushed again. Who knows? Things change every single day. So let's see. I just checked my FSA. Even though I sent the second consolidation to Mohila last week, FSA showed Advantage as my servicer today. Do I need to call them to change this? You just need to check the correspondence that you've gotten about the consolidation process. Like check that, check where, if it depends on where you're at in the process. A second consolidation is if they're showing up on the studentaid.gov website as two separate loans, then you're fine, even if they're both at Advantage. But if it was your final consolidation, you just need to go back and look at the language that you got from your correspondence. And you can call too to ask. You can call, just may not be super helpful. Okay. All right, let's see. Any last quick ones? I'm not sure how to start this process, so check out that YouTube video that can help you. And then if you need some additional help, schedule a consultation. To clarify, is there any risk at Mohila at all that they'll stop processing consolidation? So not at this time. There's no, Mohila is in a blackout period right now where they're transitioning a lot of PSLF data over to Department of Ed, but they're still processing consolidations from what I can tell. So no issue there at this point. How do I know when to contact the servicer or Advantage with questions? Really, it's if you think you should have received correspondence by that point in time and you haven't, or something's wrong. They've sent you correspondence about what you're doing with the process and it's wrong. That's when you need to contact them. Okay. Man, there's still a lot of questions. I'm sorry we're not able to get to all of them, but please, please, please check out our blog content on the double consolidation process, the YouTube video that walks through it step by step. And then subscribe to our newsletter if you're not already on it. That could be helpful to keep you posted on what's going on, what changes are happening. And then don't sleep on a consultation. Do one if you need one. And I I can promise you, I really can. You'll walk away with more information than you came to the table with. You're gonna feel better about your situation and you're gonna know how to proceed. I will promise you that. And thank you, Kathleen, for hanging out with me today and going through all these questions.
It's my pleasure. And if there, I saw some clients in the chat. If you have any questions, please nudge me. I'm happy to help you in the nudge.
Yeah. Finance or SLP wealth clients, message your advisor if you're working with us for financial planning. If you've already done a student loan consultation and you need some help with your process, reach out to your consultant. If you're past your window of follow-up support, they'll just send you a link to get scheduled on a follow-up call. So, but thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. I know we went a little over, but hopefully we were able to get to a couple more questions that were helpful, dropping nuggets of information. And I hope you guys all have a lovely rest of your evening. Thank y'all. Thank you, Kathleen.
Bye, everyone.